Welcome, everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in the Spokane Sangha. And I'm happy to be here. And I would like to share with you this little painting that I made. And on the back, I write these sentiments of metta. Metta is loving kindness. And it's very traditional in Buddhist practice to set a motivation, to really look at what is the intention for bringing our awareness to the three jewels, to the Buddha, to the Dharma, and to the Sangha. Here's this one today. May my steps forward clear the path for others. May my steps forward clear the path for others. Ah. You know, as I think about that sentiment, may my steps forward clear the path for others. What's coming alive for me are the four limitless qualities in Buddhism. And if you're not familiar with what they are, let me just share. The first is loving kindness, Maitri or Metta. And to be loving and kind is a limitless quality we can cultivate through these practices. And so when I think about taking my steps forward and I think about, like a really overgrown path and having to hack my way so hard, there's so much effort going on. And there's a little immature part of me that's like, why should I clear the way for anyone else? Like, look at lazy Lucy back there, just taking advantage of all my effort. And that's a pretty narrow way. That's a pretty tight, clamped down, shut down way of looking at my effort. So while it's true that I'm putting forth all of this effort, it's also true that to make the path a little bit easier for someone else, me not knowing any of what their issues are, is an act of love and kindness. It's also an act of compassion. My effort is bringing ease into the world where someone else may need relief from their effort. Who knows if the person behind me was just hacking away for the last 20 miles and they are lost and they stumble upon my path. Oh, what a relief. What an act of compassion. And when I think about it this way, it fills me with joy, mudita, and to share that joy out into the universe. And it's not just people coming behind me, it's all manner of life. And it's also a recognition of equanimity, which is the reality that life is both full of effort and burden and challenge, and it's also full of ease. And while I'm working my muscles and hacking and creating this path for myself, and while I'm also generating ease for someone else, knowing that that's happening brings ease to my own effort. That's how it works. So this sentiment is really quite profound. May my steps forward clear the path for others. And here's the most humbling part about that is when I'm hacking a path in a really dense place, a dense experience, maybe it's a forest, maybe it's just my mind. I'm not looking behind me. I'm going forward. So I have no idea the benefit that's happening because of my efforts. And I'm not spending a whole lot of time measuring that either. I'm just continuing to go forward. So you may never know the benefit that your efforts are creating in the world, but what you can rest assured is that your efforts are creating benefit in the world. That brings me a lot of joy too. So, friends, on Wednesdays, we have been taking a journey in time back to the 8th century, where a man by the name of Shantideva, a monk in India at Nalanda University, created a map using the Buddhist practices and principles, a map of ethical conduct, a map of morality, a map of wisdom and spiritual insight to guide his own life so that his life could be one of pure benefit to all living beings. That was his whole gig. That's all he wanted to do. He wanted to use Buddhist practices and principles to understand his own habit energy of mind, body, spirit. He wanted to understand all the ways that he's really good at connecting with people and toxic. He wanted to understand his past so that he could really be present to himself, so that the future could be a place of healing. And he talked about it with his peers and with his teachers, and people translated it. And it's a book called The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And we've been exploring it slowly over a couple of years now. And we're in the 9th chapter, which is the cultivation of wisdom. And today I'd like to read just a couple of verses for us to ponder. And he's been talking about, we've been exploring how people suffer even way back when he was a young man in the 8th century. People were suffering because of their attachments to their bodies, the body's appearance, the body's function, the body's dysfunction, the way people abuse the body through violence and neglect, and how there was this overemphasis on the body, its passions, its desires. And it was a source of deep, deep suffering. And Shantideva really wanted to neutralize that somehow and really wanted to bring forward an inquisitive approach to what is your relationship to your body? Where are your attachments? What can you release? And so these next few verses are aligned with that. He writes, what intelligent person would develop attachment for this dream-like form? The dream-like form that he's talking about is this body in space. And he writes, and since there is no truly existent body, who is truly existent male and who is truly existent female? If painful feelings are truly existent, they can never be changed. And it follows that living beings never experience pleasant feelings. And if pleasant feelings are truly existent, why do delicious tastes not bring joy to one who is grieving? Such a person does develop pleasant feelings, but he or she does not experience them because they are suppressed by the strength of the painful feelings. How can there possibly be a feeling that is not experienced? When a strong, pleasant feeling occurs, there is still a subtle, painful feeling. The gross feeling of pain is dispelled, and the subtle pain that remains becomes the nature of a subtle, pleasant feeling. Well, then, that subtle feeling is a pleasant feeling, not a painful one. So, what you're saying is that painful feelings do not occur at the time because the delicious taste is a cause of their opposite pleasant feelings? Whether it is a cause of pleasant or painful feelings depends merely on conceptual imputation. Thus, feelings are established as having no inherent existence. The antidote that abandons grasping at truly existent feelings is meditation on an analysis of lack of true existence. The superior seeing that arises from analysis of this emptiness, conjoined with tranquil abiding, is the food that nourishes the yogi's realizations. What on earth is he talking about? So when I read things like, there's no inherent this, there's no existent that, I do have a rebel in me. I think Shante Deva and I would have been excellent friends. And I would have been quite antagonistic toward him, friendly and joyful, but nevertheless, like, what? What are you saying? And really, when I read this and I think about him and I think about the language and the interpretation, what's coming alive for me is two things. The first is the reality that so much of what I experience isn't always what it seems. There's more to the story. So, for example, yesterday we were talking in Soul Center today about a Sangha member who received an Amber Alert for a nearby. It's like an Amber Alert for fire, and I got that too. We all did in the county, and I got this alert, and I was so freaked out that I went into a complete shaky panic mode. And that shaky panic feeling is real. It's absolutely real. It exists. You could measure it in my heart rate, for instance. But what Shantideva is saying is that even that feeling that's real, yes, okay. And there's more to that feeling. It's not just that panic because you got this alert. Something else is there for you, Julia. What else is there? What are you not seeing? It would be super easy for me to blame all of that anxiety, all of that stress on the fear of the fire. But if I did that, I would be missing a whole lot of other stuff that's going on in my personal life right now. And that's why he's saying, yeah, meditate on that. Look deeply. Ask some questions. What are the conditions to all that panic? Did it really just come because you got that warning on your phone? Or is there something else going on? And here's the thing that he's saying about pleasant versus unpleasant. In that moment of panic, when I saw that alarm, and all I saw, I said this earlier in Sate Seva this morning, all I saw was evacuation level 3, leave now. This may be your last warning, kind of a thing. And I did not read any further. I immediately went to pack up all my crap that don't want to burn, What am I going to do? It never even occurred to me that this could be a countywide message. It wasn't talking directly to me, and to read further so I would know where the fire was. I was so panicked and freaked out that I didn't even read that. My kids did, thank goodness. They calmed me down. But that panic stayed with me for a while, a long while. And because I had this really unpleasant experience, what I started to do and what I started to observe is I was smearing it over everything. I smeared the panic over a connection with a friend. I spread this, sticky anxiety interacting with my dogs. I even brought this panic, this energy out to my beehives. And I wasn't surprised when I got stung, not the energy to bring to a beehive. I was so clueless. It never even occurred to me. Yeah. So I'm bringing that pain everywhere I go, and I'm injecting it into these potentially positive, pleasant experiences. So I'm making them subtly painful. And Shante Davis saying the opposite can be true too. If you have a pleasant experience, you can inject that even into your challenges, and the challenges lighten and become a little bit easier. So, our capacity to play with these emotions reminds us that the emotions themselves are not fixed. They're broad, they're supple, they involve so much. So, with our own agency and our own creativity, with our own capacity for knowledge and wisdom, creativity, and so on, we can play with these emotions. We can work with them. They don't have to govern us so completely, but it's a practice. And yesterday, I even had a thought, a little scolding thought to myself. I was sitting on my patio and I was kind of calming down, and I wasn't particularly patient with myself. And I was like, oh my God, Julia, seriously? You're supposed to be this spiritual practitioner. I can't believe you let your panic get the best of you. What's your problem? Oh my God, you really ran amok in your mind. Holy shit, man. You lost it. Not very patient, not very kind, not very joyful, certainly not very compassionate. And I share that with you, friends, because whether you have 30 minutes of practice under your belt or 30 years, it doesn't matter. It's all just a practice. And so we meet ourselves in practice exactly where we are. So let's do that together for a few minutes. And how we begin is with the body. And I'd like to invite you all to check in with your bodies. These incredible vehicles, these incredible worlds unto themselves that enable us to move from point A to point B. How are you taking care of your body? That's not an invitation to judge. It's just an invitation to be real. How are you taking care of your body? Have you fed your body well today? And if you haven't, okay, take stock and see if later today you can add some nourishment to your body. Have you moved your body well today? Just notice. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths. You know, when you oxygenate your red blood cells, all the systems in the body work better. Breathe in. Breathe out. Take a moment to inquire in your own lived experience in this moment. What's your mood? What's your attitude? What's the tone fueling your attitude? I was sharing with Sangha members before that I came up with a new word, and it's what's your attitude? Your attitune tone. Your attitone. What's your attitone? What's the tone of your attitude? And just notice, no judgment, just notice. Meet yourself exactly as you are with friendly curiosity. And then determine any thoughts, any clamped down thoughts and stories you might be carrying around in your pocket. Again, just notice. These are the four foundations of mindfulness, friends. And they are a wonderful place to concentrate the mind, the attention as we breathe. Breathing in your lived experience. Breathing out everybody else's lived experience. The details may differ, but as human beings, so much of our experiences are universal, right? So breathing in the experience of being human and alive. Breathing out the spirit of being together. Breathing in my lived experience. Breathing out. You are just like me. I am just like you. Having this lived experience. Breathing in myself as an individual. Breathing out all the ways we enter are. Breathing in, breathing out. And then on Friday we meet online only at 11:30 a.m. And tomorrow we're going to continue exploring the Noble Eightfold Path, the second fold, really, of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is cultivating wise intentions. And the reimagined idea of cultivating wise intention is to create space. And look at that baby looking at us. Oh my goodness. Hi, Tucker. You are so sweet. And so that's what we're going to continue to explore is how do we have wise intentions? How do we have realistic intentions? How do we have intentions that go awry in ways that we never expected, never anticipated, feel bad about, regret? How can we make space for all of it? That is what we are endeavoring to explore for the month of June. And tomorrow I'm going to bring forward some really beautiful teaching by Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo. And if you haven't ever heard of her, I'll bring her book so you can see it. She's an amazing, amazing Buddhist nun in the Mahayana tradition, and she's kind of one of the pioneers. She's a European woman, an English woman who dedicated her life to these Buddhist practices and principles, and she writes beautifully about it. So I'll share a little bit about her work tomorrow because I think it's relevant to our task. Lo has posted in the chat the link to Soul Center so you can check out all the goodies on our website, all the different ways that you can support this community, this Sangha. Everything you do, please know, everything you make a dana offering for, whether it's one of our tokens of mindfulness, whether you purchase the Sate Seva book, all of our t-shirts, our merch, the whole thing, everything helps keep the lights on. And it really is such a generous way of being involved. We are one of the only places in the inland Northwest that offers Buddhist recovery. And so we have quite an extensive outreach. And so your support of what we're doing is just ripples out into the world. And we are so, so grateful. Email me with any questions or concerns. Let me know how you are. I'd love to be in touch with you. And again, if you don't have a Rami Sarala, I see Allison's wearing hers. If you don't have, and Mary Lou's got hers, Susan's got, if you don't have one and you want one, email me and I will make sure you get one. What did you say, Luma? Oh, Luma's like, I've got a new one going into the mix now. Seriously, they are works of art. They are so amazing. So let's go ahead and end our practice today, friends, with a dedication of merit. And we're going to dedicate this practice using the wisdom of Shantideva. And traditionally, one of the ways to dedicate this is to just imagine a light that is radiating at the level of the heart. But remember, friends, this light isn't just illuminating forward. It's also illuminating and radiating behind you through your back body. And what this reminder is that we don't always see, we can't always know the way our brightness, the way our warmth affects others. It's behind us and we're going forward, but it's still nevertheless lighting the way. Shantideva determined for himself that rather than using Buddhist practices and principles for his own enlightenment and awakening and going into the timeless consciousness that is enlightenment and so on, What he wanted to do in multiple births, which is the tradition, the belief system in Buddhism, is he wanted to come back again and again and again with the single purpose of supporting people's journey in their own awakening. And so, in one of the verses in this book, in his manuscript, is this dedication. For as long as suffering is in the world, for as long as living beings are in the world, may I too remain to help dispel the misery of the world. And you know, friends, it sounds like such a tall order, doesn't it? But it really begins at the level of the heart with the slightest flicker of warmth and light. You never know the ways this is going to guide someone out of deep darkness and despair. Thank you for your beautiful practice today. Thank you for being such a reliable source of inspiration to me and to this community. And I hope I get to see you again really, really soon, maybe even as early as tomorrow. Until then, namaste.